Hi everyone. We've had quite a good time here in Troon. We've had a lot of decent weather while we've been here as well, but it's turning a little bit worse, so we're deciding to escape it. We're going to try and escape it just before it starts kicking up. So weather forecast at the moment sort of suits us because we're doing a southwesterly sort of course, and if it comes on northwest then it'll be a nice reach right the way down. So that's our plan, and we hope to be able to get to we're hoping to get down to an anchorage in Stranraer, which is about 35 miles down the coast from here, which is about 7 hours of 5 knots. But we've got that tiny little bit of tide with us, which might make up half a knot, so we might get there a little bit earlier. So let's go out and see what it's like out. Well, we're going to motor westerly straight into the wind for the first couple of minutes. And the wind doesn't feel that strong, so I suppose it's about a 3 at the moment. But there's a bit of a bumpy wave set, and I don't know whether this is going to get worse or better as the tide turns. So we're going to motor out to a little island, that one just there, called Lady Island. And then when we get to that, we're going to turn to port and hopefully have a more favourable wind. It will be a close reach unless the wind veers a little bit, and then that'll give us a reach, which will both be comfortable and favourable for speed, hopefully. Well, the waves actually seem to be quite on the nose, and we're hoping that they're going to fade away a little bit at least, or at least come round to our beam as we pass this Lady Island here. As we make our turn to port, just before putting the sails up, we notice the wind started picking up quite considerably. So let's stick the sails up and give it a go, and we do. And she's going all right, but she doesn't seem to be making very good headway, and she's not comfortable. She's bouncing around a little bit, so we turn it round and put the opposite tack in, and now we're heading back. And then we give up on the sailing and just go, oh, let's motor in. So we get back in because it's getting a bit wet out, and we're going to motor our way in. I did warn them in the marina if I didn't like it out I was coming back, and I don't want 6 hours of this. I didn't want 6 hours of this either, but it's looked like what we're going to have, so we may as well just stay in the boat and make the best of it. It ain't going to get any better very quick. Anyway, they've promised a nicer day tomorrow. It's just that it's going to be a little bit more windy tomorrow. That doesn't mean we'll be going sailing tomorrow. It means we'll be going for a nice walk instead, in the sunshine and the wind. Well, when the next day came, we got what they promised, wind. It was set to blow all day from the west, but there was touches of south in it, and that's almost the way we want to go, so we got no hope of even motoring now, but I can't imagine the sea will have come down at all. We're going to have a walk up the top and have a look at the sea, and then go for a walk into town anyway. The following day was exactly the same. Wind, but we were told on the forecast that was only 3 to 5, yet in the marina we were getting almost constant 6s all day. So we feared there'd be even more outside. Tomorrow's forecast's a bit better. There's supposed to be a bit of a lull in the night, and then it's supposed to come back 3 to 5 favourable to us on a northwesterly, so we'll take that. Nice bit of blue sky up there, so the weather is getting better. We get up handy. All the wind stopped blowing about 10 o'clock the night before. It's near 5 hours since it's blown hard. It seems to be like the calm after the storm at this moment in time. And I can see there's just a little bit of orange in the horizon over there, so it won't be too many hours before the sun decides to join us. So we slip out the marina in the dark. Nobody else is about, funny enough. Literally just coming outside the marina, you can't see it in the water there in different places, but there's dolphins, there they go. They're very hard to see because they're black and they're in the dark, but they're just there all around the boat. We noticed as we were coming out the marina, they were all over the place, and it's really hard to catch them on the camera. I'm sorry, it's just too dark for you to spot them, but there they go. We can see them with our own eyes, but the cameras won't pick them up very well. It's still almost pitch black out, You can see a glow on the horizon, but you can see that all night in Scotland here. The moon's still up over there, and you can see the moonlight on the water. When you look any other way than the actual direction of where the moon is, or the horizon is in the distance, you don't see anything at all. I'm looking to starboard slightly there on the starboard bow, there's a flashing light. That's the island we went round last time. We're not going round it this time. Right, motor's off, sails are up, and we're making way, and there's a ship turning up behind me now. Just spotted the lights. Well, he's going on our inside, so we're alright. It's starting to get a little bit lighter out. The camera's doing very well picking up what light there is because sun isn't up yet. So it's still actually dark when you look one way, but there's a little bit of light coming in the sky the other way, which is behind us, which would have been nicer if that was the way we were going, but we're heading into the dark. But that's alright. You're starting to be able to see now, and we're making a fair pace, and the wind's behind us. And I'm very pleased to say we've got a slight sea, and the moon's still shining on us. To think 90% of the people who might watch this will have been in bed when it was being made, and I was slipping down the coast with a big smile on my face while everybody else was sleeping, including Lisa. She's gone back to sleep as well, but she did sort of pan it out before she went, so she's a hero. And here's a Brucey bonus for you. We're doing just on 6 knots through the water. The waves, they're left over from yesterday, from when there was a lot of wind. The waves are still fairly big, but they're very smooth. They've got a long fetch to them, so I'm not bothered about them. They're very comfortable to ride with. Now, with wind speeds being no more than force 5 today, this sea should fall slighter, and as it does, I'll hopefully pick up a little bit more speed as well. And then you never know, Swallow might break 6 knots through the water. I keep thinking it's just my imagination, but she actually does feel like she's sailing faster. We seem to be going everywhere just that little bit quicker. She seems to be pushing that little bit harder to get through the water. She seems to plough a lot more. This time last year, 5 knots would have done me happily, but just look at that. We've broke the 6 knots through the water, and she's doing it real, through the water. That's the realest way to do it. Stats 5.7 through the water. We've got about 14 knots of wind on the quarter, and we're doing 5.5, 5.7 over the ground as well. So not much current here at this moment in time, but it is timed as slack. And here's the sun coming up. What difference that's going to make to today. Oh, and today's set to be a Bobby Dazzler with sunshine. It's the first day that we're going to see 20 degrees. Yet you heard me, 20 degrees. I think my shorts will be getting an outing later on. A quick pan round then, let's have a peek about. Up there ahead of us we've got that bump, Ailsa Craig, that you can see from just about everywhere. Over there we're saying goodbye to Arran and putting the Firth of Clyde slowly behind us and saying hello to our gorgeous sunrise. Well, we slowed a little, 5.1 over the ground. Here we are, and the air's gone down a little bit, but we're still doing 5.1 through the water, so still in slack water. Our sunshine's getting a bit brighter, and we're starting to get a bit blue in the sky now. The day's starting to wake up. That's Holly Island over there in front of Lamlash, just there, that one in the middle. We wanted to go over there, but we've been stuck for a week in Troon, so we never made it. It was an anchorage we wanted to spend a little bit of time in as well, but days tick by and time waits for no man. Look at that, the speed's slowing down. 4.1 from just passing 6 down to 4.1. The air's starting to get lighter. Well, the weather forecast today's got quite a few areas of not much wind in it, which we will pass through, so we might be on the motor at times from A to B. Well, as long as there's wind, we'll continue to sail. We're in no rush, and really we've not fixed ourselves a final destination. That's our first port along our way coming up on our port side, which was called Girvan. There's a boat coming out of it just there, I can see it. We did think about Gaven, but it's too close for this stop now. It's still crispy early in the morning, and we've not even passed Ailsa Craig yet. Ailsa Craig you can see from just about anywhere along the way here. It just looms massively in front of you all the time. Well, it's happened. The wind's come on the nose, we're motoring. So we're going to have to motor for a little bit until something else changes or gives. We're making 5 knots through the water, but we're making it at the cost of 2,500 RPM on the engine, which is 2 litres an hour disappearing. And I can still see this fella out the window. Well, this is the best shot I've got of it, so there you go, and that's what it looks like. A great big cake. Well, we've passaged now about 25 miles. I've gone underneath the keel from all the way up there, through that sunny patch there where the sun's really getting up, past all those windmills and Gaven down there. Visibility is good now, and the sea's fallen slight. And just ahead of us, there's an opening called Stranraer just there. Well, that could have been our second stop. That would have took us to about 35 miles. But I think we're going to carry on and make our way round towards Portpatrick now. Wouldn't mind betting these guys love a flat sea as well. We're a beam of Benane Head at the moment. It's the first area along here that you get overfalls, just to show you're getting back in a tidal zone. And here's our current stats. We're managing around 5.5 over the ground, and we're there opposite Benane Head at the moment, approaching Loch Ryan. We've still got the wind more or less on the nose, but it's starting to look promising. It's touching a bit of green. Well, that's the opening to Loch Ryan, which is where Stranraer is the hiding down the bottom of, and the anchorage. There's a ferry terminal hiding down the bottom of Loch Ryan, so that means that big boats are going to come in and out. So I've just seen one go out not so long ago, but that also means that some fast ones might come back, so you've got to listen out for these things and then get out the way. Well, the weather's certainly looking up, even if there's no wind. You can feel the temperatures building, and I haven't felt the temperatures building for a long time. I might say no wind, it's just starting to build there on the starboard side. I always seem to speak too soon. Well, we're going to change our course to porting a little bit when we go round the next headland. So I think we'll get the sails up in anticipation, and we can motor sail for a little bit. They've got a bit of shape and they're not flogging, so that'll do, mate. We'll get a little tiny bit of lift off that. We're about 1.5 hours away from the North Channel, and we're away again. It mightn't be very fast, but it's much nicer than the buzzing sound that you get otherwise. The sails are just about drawing. Our St Andrew's courtesy flag's almost flying, and we're making just over 3.5 through the water. And this chap's dragging the fishing net. See the lines running out behind him. Hope he doesn't catch a swallow. Well, where that land ends there, that's the opening to the North Channel, and this opening you can see right in front of us in the middle, well, that's Loch Ryan. And this, well, this is just 2 beautifully filled sails with fluffy edges driving us through the water. Oh no, there's 2 Monopoly houses coming my way. Well, they're both fast ferries on their way to Loch Ryan, and they're going to get in front of me, so I don't have to worry about them. Well, that's the first one, and the second one's in the distance there coming along, but he'll be well ahead of me at 20 knots. Well, that lighthouse there is Corsewall Point Lighthouse, and that marks the end of the Firth of Clyde and into the North Channel. Now, the one thing that you get with the North Channel that's very usable or unusable depending is currents. They're back in the situation and back in the calculation. So where I am and some others using a bit of them currents heading south. That little dot you see marks some rocks. It's called Craiglagan sticking out. Well, we're doing well for sailing today anyway, so I think we've been blessed with sunshine, a gentle breeze, correct currents. I can't believe it, everything's going our way. Isn't that a smashing day? Well, the next possible place we can actually go to along here is called Portpatrick, which is a lovely little port. But we checked on the charts and it's more or less low water there at the moment, and it's got a bit of a scary rocky bottom to go into. So we've been thinking we might pass Portpatrick and head to Loose Bay, where there's a little anchorage called Tarbert. Funny name, keeps popping up. We're making over 6 knots over the ground, and it's only about 25 mile-ish away. And that reminds me, I should be putting a fix on the chart. I haven't put one on for a bit. Naughty me. It's still only early. It's about 25 past 10. The water's quite flat and the breeze is gentle, but the speed we're making is really good. If we could just find our way to getting past that little black dot, that Craiglagan, we'll be well on our way, but it doesn't seem to get any closer. Unless you zoom in, of course. Well, Causewall Point Lighthouse now is definitely in our wake, which means we're definitely travelling down the North Channel. Now, the North Channel is one of them places that you don't want to be when the weather's not right. In other words, when the wind and tide are going the opposite way. Well, that's not today. That means that the overfalls will be quite sleepy today, which means it'll be a nice day to transit it, and that's what we're actually thinking about at this moment in time. Well, although my next thought is possibly we can stop at Portpatrick. Portpatrick's dry at 11 o'clock, so I'm thinking maybe I shouldn't be bothered waiting round for Portpatrick to go in. Maybe I should just take this and say it's very advantageous to carry on. We've got a little bit of breeze, but it's making enough speed, but with the current running down, we've got enough over the ground to get somewhere quite quickly at 6 knots. So I think maybe that's what we should sit on, our 6 knots. Especially as we've got what you'd call pretty perfect conditions. It's lovely and warm out now. It must be about 16, 17 degrees now. And the sun is just screaming down on us. So it makes the day very pleasurable to be doing the transit and doing the North Sea. Because I'm quite sure a different day might be like it was when we tried to get out the other day, where we don't want to actually be doing it. So what the hell's she up to? God only knows. Still going strong, 4.3 through the water, making our way down the coast and 6 knots over the ground. 10:46, lots of day left. Hey, you're going to like this bit. Can you see the different coloured waters? You can see blue water and you can see green water, the aqua colour and the blue colour. Well, that is the Firth of Clyde actually meeting the North Channel, and they're the two different colours of water as they blend together. Two totally different waters, and you can actually see them meeting. Now, this coastline is generally quite rugged down here, as well as beautiful, but every now and then a little beach appears. I wonder if anybody knows these beaches exist. There's never anybody on them, but there doesn't seem to be any way down to them either. Little private beaches. Just take a look at this beach here. It starts here, and as it moves along, there's like a dip in the mountain, and where the dip is in the mountain, someone's built a house. Look at that house. No roads, just a house, and there's another one there. How did they get to them places, eh? I think this is called Blackhead, and that's called the Old Lighthouse. Well, as we get alongside Portpatrick, the wind drops completely out the sails, so we switch the motor back on. Now, we could motor around for an hour or two, waiting for a bit of water to get in Portpatrick, or we could get really brave and try and scrape our way in, or we could just go with the flow. So I think at this particular moment in time, I'm going to go with the flow, which means saying goodbye to beautiful looking Portpatrick and heading on down to the Mull of Galloway while we've got these flat calm waters. Well, we're just about here at the moment, and we want to head all the way down to here to go round this corner. There's a little anchorage just here, It's called East Tarbert Bay, and the whole great big bay is Loose Bay. But we've got the trans all the way down here, yeah? All the way down here to there. And when we get down there, we've got to go around the corner. And it's a big beastly corner, but it's fast asleep, and that's just the way we like things, fast asleep. As we're around the bottom of the Mull of Galloway, the tide starts to pick up a bit of speed. We're doing 5 through the water, but we're doing 7.5 over the ground. But that'll even get quicker. That's Cranach Head Lighthouse there you've just seen. And this is the area where the overfalls would normally be quite rough on a wind over tide situation. The landmass is quite an inhospitable looking chunk of rock as well, with no little safe havens in it should you need them. So you've got to get yourself round this rough water if it's rough when you get here. Now if the wind was up, I'd be giving this a really wide berth of a couple of miles, but it's not. So I'm going through the Devil's Mouth while he's fast asleep, and so's this guy in his little ticky fishing boat. Now that's Cranach Head all the way through to the Mull of Galloway, and in this area wind over tide makes a boiling patch that a lot of people will come to see from up there. And there's the viewing platform that they look out from, next to the lighthouse on the end of the Mull. And for those foggy days, Mr. Monster Foghorn. Look at the size of him. Well, I've been really naughty. I come round the corner so fast that I couldn't be bothered turning left when I was saying to Lisa, look, we're doing 10 knots, we're doing 10 knots. And we just carried on in what was the wild currents that were dragging us along, all the way towards this mad rock in the distance. Well, a local told me it's called Scares Rock. I thought it was Scars when I read it, but he said no, it's Scares Rock, it's really scary, you stay away from it. And he said it's named such because the current drags you towards the rock. And I actually did notice that myself and had to recorrect my course. I kept heading towards the rock, so it's true. Well, it's only mid-afternoon, it's only 20 degrees Celsius. There's very little wind on the water, but I keep thinking we're going to get a bit, so we're pressing on. I'm not actually sure where we're going to anymore. We keep deciding different places as the day's gone on. The water's now as bin bags as it's ever been all day long, and in the distance there you can just about make out the dark bit. That's the Isle of Man. Well, the wind's trying to do something now. The flat calm's gone that we were in a couple of minutes ago, and bin bags are disappearing. So fingers crossed we're going to get a little bit of a breeze, and it's going to carry us to, well, I'm not sure where we're going yet. I have to have a look at the charts and see where's next along the line. Well, that's Burrow Head there, the next headland to pass in the distance, that one. And that'll open up a whole new bay. This is the best temperatures we've had since we've been away. It's got up to 20 degrees now. We're still motoring along, but the wind is slowly starting to pick up, so I'm quite sure when we enter this new bay, which is called Wigtown Bay, we'll get a little bit more wind and maybe get ourselves sailing again. We've now decided time's getting on, and the tide won't stay with us forever, so we'll have to pick a port. So we've seen one that we quite like the look of, and it's called Kirkcudbright, so we're going to head for that. The tide's just about set to start ebbing soon, so we'll have to get our act together. The wind starts coming in at Burrow Head. We've got 10 knots of it on the beam, and it's giving us 6.4 over the ground, 4.5 through the water. We've still got the engine on as well, but we've started pushing into 2 knots. So we're motor sailing to get past this head now. It gets good enough for us to just get on with sailing across this new bay that we're in, Wigtown Bay. The wind's up the chuff, so we're going quite well. We've got about 18 knots now, so mainsail's gone away and just the foresail's out doing the work. We've got ourselves in a wind over tide sort of situation, so we're doing a little bit of surfing every now and then, or very close to it anyway. We've made the decision to actually rush to see if we can get up the river and into the little town moorings, which means we've got to get across here as fast as we can before all the water's drained out at the other end. So we've got the motor on and the sail up, and she's pushing as hard as she can, and she's doing around 6.5 knots through the water to try and get us there. We could sit and waste time, but it means we'll be on the anchor, and I think we'd be rather going to the pontoon and having that last pint at last orders. Especially as we're about 15 hours in at the moment.
Well, would you look at that? Captain Sprat Jarrow is flat out fast asleep. Well, the old boy's been on the go for 16 hours. I think I can forgive him. Which means, of course, I'm left in charge. I wonder what he'd do if I changed course and head for the Med instead.
Okay, so I've had a nap. It were only a little one, maybe an hour, but I needed it. It was a power nap. I was on the go for a long time, so it is allowed. Right, that's Little Ross Lighthouse zoomed in over there. That's our heading. We want to put that to port. And yes, she's done a grand job of getting us across the bay, but then that's why she's a vital part of the crew. We've booked quite a bit of current now to get in here, and it's getting a little bit lumpy outside, so I'm glad we're going with it rather than against it. Otherwise it would be a bumpy ride indeed. As we close up, you can see there's a bit of a sound on the port, but I don't think it's a safe sound to go through, so I won't be taking no shortcuts. I'm going to go right round to starboard side and put the island to port, and I think that way it's going to be safe going in. And as you can see, as soon as we start getting a little bit behind this island, the sea starts stretching out and smoothing down, which is nice, because I'm sure as we get round the back of it, it's going to fall flat. Just look at that for a sunny backdrop. What a lovely picture. I should have took a photo. Well, as we slip round the island, we're still pushing hard, 6.23 through the water, but we're over 4 over the ground, but it's not fantastic, but the wind's dropped down a little bit. As we get well into Kirkcudbright Bay, you can see the beauty of the place. The water's fallen slight now, so hopefully we'll get a little bit more speed motor sailing along here. There's supposed to be some buoys down there in the distance. I can just about make them out. We get to the buoys, and the first thing I notice is there's a quick corner that comes to port, so we stay with it as tight as we can because there's a lot of shallow areas. It was extremely nice to see that they were well laid out and they were easy to follow as you went in. The buoyage was good, and there was a lot of scary rocks and shallow areas on the way in, so I'm glad the buoyage was good. We arrived safe and sound, so we were really happy. We got tied up nice and easy. The visitors' berths are just a big long strip of a pontoon. You just pick one on the outside of it. So that's 18 hours with a mix of motoring and sailing and motor sailing, and it's also 100 miles. So we've done a fair stint. We didn't expect we were going to be here when we set off this morning, but it's nice now that we've got here. I hope you've enjoyed the trip along with us. Thanks for watching. Bon voyage.